Before installation, ensure that you have the correct instructions. Replacement instructions can be found at galebreaker.com. Check the contents of your door against the parts listed on page 3 of your instructions. Do not let the screen material come into contact with any sharp objects or edges. Position the template on the building as shown, allowing room for the cowling up stand. Mark and drill fixing holes for the top brackets. Use the upper row of holes and the lower row of holes. Fit the free end bracket and drive end bracket with M10 fixings. It is essential that they are level and upright and square to the building. If it is required to cut your door, measure the daylight gap between the inside face of the top brackets and cut to the following rules as shown. Do not cut the lower flap and tube at this point. Fit the drilling template into the recess with the groove and fully up against the end stop. Use the template to drill 2 holes in the end of the tension bar with a 6mm drill. Place a mark with a pencil on the tension bar at the end of the drill jig as shown to mark the position for the fixing screws. Slide the 6mm nylon insert into both pockets of the first fabric panel and cut to length. Push the flute guide insert over the end of the flute in the tube to protect the fabric sheet as it's being fitted. Slide the fabric panel into the flute on the top tube. Leave a 25mm space at the free end bracket end. Push the flute guide insert over the end of the flute in the tension bar to protect the fabric sheet. Note the correct orientation of the tension bar relative to the door arrangement. Then slide the tension bar onto the fabric panel. Secure one end of the panel to the top tube and tension bar using the 25mm self-drilling screw supplied. When the fabric is inserted, remove the flute guide insert from the end of the flute. Tension the fabric panel to remove any creases and secure with the 25mm self-drilling screw. Break the tip of the screw off inside the tube using a hammer and punch. When securing the fabric to the tension bar, insert a 4mm hex key into the end of the tension bar as shown. This will constrain the movement of the 6mm nylon insert. Remove the hex key after fixing. Ensure that the head of the screw is sunk down into the tension bar to protect the sheet. Trim the end of the panel to length and repeat with the next panel. Ensure that the panels go into the correct position, as the panels are different heights. Press the M6 nylock nuts into the windlock moulding. Fix the windlock and windlock plate into the ends of the tension bar and secure with the M6 by 16mm countersunk screws and nuts. Roll the tension bars and fabric panels onto the top tube. It is important that when the door is hung, the fabric should come off at the back of the top tube, between the tube and the building face. Insert the brake shaft assembly into the top tube. Ensure the pinch bolt is at the bottom and rotate the collar to align with the barrel. Insert the motor into the opposite end. Tie up the roller assembly to prevent it unrolling when lifting into place. When lifting the roller assembly onto the top brackets, ensure that the pins on the motor mount and brake mount engage completely into the base of the mounting brackets. The brake must be aligned in the direction shown, with the clamp bolt at the bottom. If it's not, the barrel will not turn. Use the adjuster screw to align the brake with the barrel so that there is equal gap top and bottom. Secure with the locking nut. Lock the motor into place with the M4 split pin. Lock the brake shaft with the retainer plate and the M8x20 bolts and nuts. Feed the motor wire through the cable gland in the drive bracket. When routing the electric wire to the motor, ensure that there is a drip loop. This will stop any water running along the cables and into the motor. Make sure the cable is kept tight against the top bracket to prevent any contact with the tension bar anchors. Equally cut the aluminium tracks to fill the gap between the underside of the top bracket and the ground. Remove all sharp edges from the end of the tracks. Fit the pair of funnels into the tops of the tracks and secure with the M5x19 self-drilling screws into the front face. Tighten the funnel clamp bolts. Slide the track slide insert into the tracking, pushing it fully up to the funnel and trim to length. Secure in place with the M4x16 self-drilling screws at the bottom end. Fit the upper and lower track mount brackets to the building as shown using the M8x30mm bolts and nuts. Position the mounting holes at the centre of the slots in the brackets. Fix the intermediate brackets a maximum of 1.5 meters apart. All brackets must be vertically aligned with each other. Lift the track and funnel assembly against the track brackets so that the top of the track is against the bottom edge of the top bracket. Assemble the track clamp plate with the M8x16 flanged bolts. Insert the clamp plate into the aluminium tracking. Turn the plate and engage with the track mount bracket. Repeat for all mount brackets and tighten the bolts. Secure the control box, secondary switch and wires to the building. Ensure all wires exiting from the drive bracket and motor switches point down to form a drip loop so that rainwater cannot enter the motor or switches. To protect the circuit board, we advise that the control box is mounted inside the building. Connect the motor wires to the AD10 followed by the power lead. Check the motor direction using the AD10 lid buttons and correct if necessary. Select the commissioning mode and using the switches on the control box, lower the door and ensure the wind locks engage in the tracks each side. The tension bar may need to be adjusted sideways to align with the track initially. As the door is lowering, the mechanical limit will require adjusting by turning the screws on the head of the motor with the hand tool supplied. Raise the door. The fabric and tension bars will now stack tightly around the top tube. Cut the tube and flap as per the illustration. If the safety edge is required, install it now as per the instructions applied. This is covered in a separate video. Lower the door and push the flute guide insert over the end of the flute in the bottom tube to protect the fabric sheet as it's being fitted. Pull the bottom fabric panel outside the tracks, slide on the bottom tube. Insert two M4x25 self-drilling screws into the bottom tube in the positions shown. Slide two tube weights into each end of the bottom tube and push up to the screw position. Slide the nylon insert into the pocket of the flap and slide the flap onto the bottom flute. Insert the bottom tube inserts into each end of the tube. And with the self-drilling screws, secure the fabric panel and flap to the bottom tube. It is important to tension the sheet sideways before fixing to remove creases. Lift the bottom tube into the guide rails. For electrical commissioning, see the AD10 instructions, section 5.6 and 5.7. The duty cycle of the motor is 4 minutes per hour. Therefore, it is important that operation of the motor is kept to a minimum during the setting process. If overused, a thermal trip will stop the motor to prevent damage. Should this occur, leave the motor for a minimum of 15 minutes to cool down and reset itself. Setting the limits should be carried out with the control box still in commissioning mode. To set the top limit, fully open the door until the bottom tube is positioned just below the guide rollers. Set the top limit at this position. To set the bottom limit, lower the door to approximately 3 cm from the ground and set the limit at this position. Setting the limit positions is now complete. Drive the door through one complete opening and closing cycle to check that the limit positions are correct. Install the external switch onto the outside of the building with the gland facing down. Check that the up and down push buttons operate the door in the correct direction. If not, swap the wires 2 and 3 in the control box. For safety, it is important to position the switch in sight of the door. Push the manual override eyelet into the motor gearbox and secure from above with the retaining screw supplied with the motor. Install the brake cover over the brake and attach to the side plate with the M5.5 by 32mm screws. Attach the product identification label and the CE compliance label to the front of the bottom tube. Fit the cowling support brackets to the motor bracket using the M8 by 20 bolts. Fit the 300mm cowling to the cowling brackets with the M5.5 by 19 self-drilling screws supplied. Fit the cowling brackets to the top brackets using the fixing supplied. Overlap the cowling pieces evenly to achieve the desired length, ensuring a minimum of a 265mm overlap. Space the rivets across the overlap accordingly as per this image. Secure with 30 rivets, 6 in each of the 5 faces. The direction of the rivets can be reversed for ease of installation against a flat building face. Offer the cowling to the brackets and secure with the M5.5 by 19 self-drilling screws applied. Fix the rear upstand to the building, sealing to prevent water ingress if necessary. As a safety precaution, do not install your Galebreaker product in high winds or adverse weather conditions. There is a broad range of spare parts available on our website or ordered through your local dealer. Thank you for choosing Galebreaker. We are proud to offer you a 10-year guarantee, details of which can be found on our website or by emailing the market support team.